Hi and welcome to SCW, the wrestling channel here on YouTube.com. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now. Leave any comments in the comment section. Please like and share the video as well. Going to be talking about WWE Clash of Champions 2019, where every championship in WWE is going to be defended on the same show. Now, it's been an interesting build going through on this show. There's some things that I feel positive about, some things perhaps not so positive about, but I'm going to be going through the video and giving my thoughts and giving my predictions on the matches in the show. I'd like to know your predictions in the comments section as well, and also would like to know your feelings of perhaps certain things that are not on the card, maybe certain superstars not on the card. Why is the King of the Ring finals not taking place after it had been heavily rumoured it will be taking place at the Clash of Champions? If I've got time at the end, I will come back to the King of the Ring, but first off, we are here for the predictions, so let's go through the matches that are happening. I imagine it will be on the kickoff. Of course, I'm talking about the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. Drew Gulak going to be defending his championship in a triple threat match against Humberto Carillo and Lince Darado. Of course, Lince Darado is a part of the Lucha House Party. Never received a championship match before, and he's been part of the Cruiserweight Championship, or 205 Live, should I say, or a part of the Cruiserweights since, in fact, the Cruiserweight Classics. That's even before 205 Live. So, finally getting a championship opportunity after, well, a good 3 long years with the company. So it's good to see he's getting a go. Humberto Carrillo, as I've said in previous videos, is being groomed, in my opinion, to become a Cruiserweight champion in WWE. What's interesting as well is they've kind of got a little rivalry going on, Darado and Carrillo, and it seems to have culminated here in a triple threat match involving the Cruiserweight champions. So, how is this one going to go down? My personal feeling is that the goal here is Humberto Carrillo eventually to become Cruiserweight champion. But right now, looking at it, I think that the feud going in is who can become Cruiserweight champion. But I think that Carrillo and Darado are the ones here that are sort of in that kind of feud area, and I think we're going to eliminate one of them in this match. And I think that Lince Dorado is there, unfortunately for him, to be the fall guy. Now, what is going to happen? Who is going to be the champion? It is good for the first match of the night of a Clash of Champions to have a brand new champion, to give that feel that belts can change hands, anything can happen. But WWE doesn't always count the kickoff as meaning anything. So, if it's not part of the real show, I'm going to go for Drew Gulak to retain the championship, pinning Lince Dorado, and this will lead to a future match between Drew Gulak and Humberto Carrillo. Perhaps Carrillo will earn himself a number 1 contendership again, beating Lince Dorado on 205 Live, and then Carrillo can win the championship at a future pay-per-view, perhaps Hell in a Cell. But for right now, Drew Gulak will remain still Cruiserweight champion. Going on to then what I believe will be all the matches on the main show. Let's start with a match that's been put together quite late. The United States Championship match, AJ Styles against Cedric Alexander. Now, of course, if you're to believe the rumour mill, a slow push is expected for Cedric Alexander. Expected to become a top guy at some stage in WWE. My personal opinion, I don't see it at this particular stage. I think the guy's got bags of talent in the ring. He's an amazing in-ring performer, but he needs to improve the mic work. He needs to improve the character work. For me, he's still a long way away. But a slow push means it could be a year, 2 down the line, and perhaps that's enough time for him to improve that mic skills and also to improve the character work. But in the meantime, an interesting note to take here, what championship has probably changed the most this calendar year? Yes, the United States Championship. So, without further ado, could this be the night for Cedric Alexander? I mean, he has already pinned AJ Styles on Raw this week, of course, in Madison Square Garden, in the main event in a 10-man tag. And, of course, we have seen the OC get involved when they had a singles match earlier in the night on the show. And there has been an attack with, of course, Gallows and Anderson on Cedric Alexander backstage as well. I do wonder if the War Raiders will be involved. Should the OC of Gallows and Anderson want to get involved in this match? I wouldn't be surprised if there was a bit of an assist here to help Cedric Alexander. But for me, I think AJ Styles is going to retain here. I don't see this championship changing in the meantime. I do believe AJ Styles is, right now, the right guy to hold the US Championship. I think that it's always good to see AJ with a championship. I'm loving the heel work. It gives credibility to the OC stable. So I would like to see AJ retain and still keep the United States Championship. Maybe one day for Cedric, but I don't think that this Sunday is that day. Next, we'll look at the Intercontinental Championship. Shinsuke Nakamura, the champion, defending against The Miz. Interesting, it has been slowly mentioned, even though it's not really been a big deal made of this at the moment, is that, of course, if The Miz is to win the Intercontinental Championship, he will be an equal record number of holds of the IC Championship with 9. Now, I think one reason perhaps WWE is not mentioning this, of course, is because the guy who currently holds the record is someone who's currently sipping a little bit of the bubbly, of course, Chris Jericho. So, they don't want to make AEW references, so I suppose this is perhaps why they are keeping it low-key. But we know how petty WWE is, and I don't really feel currently that the Nakamura Intercontinental Championship run is really going anywhere. I know he's got Sami Zayn in his corner. Sami Zayn was taken out by The Undertaker this week on WWE TV. Will that stop him being part of the pay-per-view? I'm not sure. Some championships are going to change hands here. I was, before this week, convinced that Nakamura would retain, but I just have this feeling that after the week of Jericho, that WWE would probably like to equal, if not beat, that record of the most IC championships in WWE. And the guy that can do that is The Miz. So I'm going to go for a surprise here, and I think I'm going to go for The Miz as the new Intercontinental Champion. My other reasoning behind it is there has been rumours that a draft will be taking place to make sure that the wildcard rule is no more. There will be a Raw, there will be a SmackDown, and one way to just kind of slowly put people into place so we know what show they're going to be on, well, if The Miz is Intercontinental Champion and the championships don't change brands, there we go. The Miz can go to SmackDown, where I think he would be used better because currently he's not really got a place on Raw. So this would be a way to build The Miz back up, give him the championship, put him on SmackDown, and I think that perhaps maybe Nakamura with Sami Zayn can then chase back after the championship. There's no reason why this couldn't be a quick reign, to be honest, for The Miz if it was to go down that way. So I'm just going to go for the fact that The Miz, though, will win the belt this Sunday. But this one could go either way. Next, we'll look at the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, and we're going to look at the New Day, Big E and Xavier Woods taking on the Revival. I'm loving the Revival and Randy Orton, almost trio going on. There's not really a stable name for them, but I'm quite liking it. I do feel the New Day currently, believe it or not, this title run has seemed a bit lackluster. And as we're building towards a Kofi Kingston versus Randy Orton potential main event, I mean, could be the main event of the show. I don't think it will, but perhaps the maybe second to last match it could be. A good way to tease it if the championship is going to change hands later in the night is to change one now. I think the Revival would be a good shout to become SmackDown Tag Team Champions. I think that they would have credibility as the champions. And, well, I've just mentioned the draft a minute ago. I think the Revival could be coming to SmackDown because, well, SmackDown is lacking a solid heel tag team. They seem to have the New Day, they've got Heavy Machinery, but I'm not sure really where else they have a lot of strength and depth in that tag team division. Certainly not anyone, in my personal opinion, with credibility. Now, you could argue, where's Authors of Pain, where's a couple of other teams, but they're not being used. The Revival, for me, would be good SmackDown Tag Team Champions. So I think it's a good thing to do. I don't think we'd miss the New Day having their belts right now. So I'm going to go for the Revival to become SmackDown Tag Team Champions. And plus, the New Day, full stable of champions. It's been done now for a little while. We've seen that for a couple of months. It's time to change it over for me. Mix it up. Let's give the Revival those Tag Team Championships of SmackDown Live. Next then, we'll look at the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross against Fire and Desire of Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. I'm not sure how Corey Graves is going to be able to contain himself on commentary. Going to be interesting with Mandy Rose and Alexa Bliss in the same match at the same time. I wonder how Carmella feels about this. But of course, Corey Graves only doing his job. But no, I'm looking forward to this. Usually I go for 50-50 booking. I usually say whoever has the momentum going into the pay-per-view usually doesn't have the momentum coming out of it. I'm going to break tradition because Nikki Cross pinned Mandy Rose on SmackDown Live this week. But I do believe Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross are going to retain the championships here. And I've got my reasoning for it. Mainly because that I believe that the Women's Tag Team Championships have been on TV for the last few weeks. And I think that it's imperative they remain on TV to have any credibility at all. Nothing against Mandy and Sonya. I'm a big fan of their work. I think that they actually a credible tag team in what's a very lackluster women's tag team division currently in WWE. But yeah, I do believe that they're not on TV every week. So I want those belts to remain on television currently. I think Alexa and Nikki Cross have got a decent storyline going on now as best friends. I'm sure the double cross will happen at some point down the line, but I don't think it's yet. I'm looking forward to seeing how the story continues to play out. And I think that Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross will retain the belts. So, yeah, that's my prediction for this one. Coming away from the championships, let's look at a no disqualification match that's been added to the show. Roman Reigns versus Erick Rowan. And before the stipulation was made, I did believe that there was going to be a false finish. So it's good to see that the no DQ stipulation has been added in. So we're definitely going to get a winner one way or another. So I think the cool way to end this, the best way from a booking standpoint, is that Erick Rowan, yes, is the guilty guy, but maybe, although he claims he is, that no one tells him what to do, he does still have someone by his side. I think that would be a cool way to do it, because then it could be a 2-on-1. Roman Reigns loses, Erick Rowan gets the credibility and gets a big victory under his belt, and whoever, of course, is by his side, those guys can either become a monster heel tag team, but we've had that with the Bludgeon Brothers previously. I don't think it would be Luke Harper, sadly, either, if it was an assist. But it would be interesting if Daniel Bryan was actually in it all along, and as an idea to really fool the fans. But I think that would be a cool way to go, because then Erick Rowan, of course, like I said, would get a big victory under his belt. It would continue a storyline going forward. Not that I think that this one needs to be continued. It is one of my negatives. It's been treated as the biggest storyline for months in WWE, but sadly it feels like for me each week that it's just been pieced together at the last minute. It really does feel like that the script is being ripped up. And of course, if you believe the dirt sheets, that's exactly what's happening. So, of course, the most likely outcome here is Roman Reigns shouldn't lose to Erick Rowan, really, if it's a standard one-on-one match. However strong you've built Erick Rowan. So I'm going to go for what I think is the more likely of the two. I'm going to go for a Roman Reigns victory. Regardless of what happens here, we might get some storyline development after the match, because, I don't know, I'm not convinced that it's going to be the end at this pay-per-view. I somehow feel Hell in a Cell is where it's going to finish up. But I do think that if no one is going to help Roman in this match, I can only see Roman Reigns picking up the victory. So there we go. Roman Reigns to pick up the W at this pay-per-view. Next, we'll look at the SmackDown Women's Championship. Bayley, the champion, against Charlotte Flair. And of course, this pay-per-view is in Charlotte's hometown. Bayley recently turned heel. Charlotte sort of with the tweener role, because she's had to be in the recent weeks. She's not really been a face, but she's not really been a heel either. So very interesting how this is sort of going to play out. The fans, though, are going to be on Charlotte's side here. One thing interesting is that sometimes WWE loves to go and give the hometown crowd what they want. Charlotte Flair, of course, would become a 10-time women's champion. I don't think that it's out of the realm that she'll be a 16-time world champion at some stage in the women's division. But my feeling is right now that you've just turned Bayley heel, and I feel that there is some mileage here. And I do feel that she has a story that she wants to elevate the women's division. She wants to elevate the SmackDown Women's Championship, that it's bigger than the Raw's side. So it feels like that we are eventually going to get a Raw versus SmackDown Women's Championship situation. And it does make me feel that Bayley, in this case, will retain. I have been kind of almost 50-50 with Bayley's heel turn so far. I have wanted to see, and I've said in previous videos, I want to see Bayley the Hugger turn all grown up. That she doesn't need the hugs anymore. She doesn't need the loyalty of friends. She feels she's been turned on by the fans and stuff like that, because fans have been booing her in her face run. The fans really love the heel turn, but it feels like less than a couple of weeks less, the fans don't give a toss, and that's brutal, really, but it's honest. I just feel that at the moment Bayley is lacking a bit of edge, and I think that that's what fans want to see with this heel turn. They want to see Bayley with an edge. The steel chair is a nice touch. Perhaps teaming up with Sasha Banks, yes, because they are strong together. They were the first ever women's tag team champions. They could both perhaps potentially be both the women's champions of each brand, and that would make strength in numbers there after this pay-per-view. But for me, I think Bayley just needs a little bit more right now. But to win against a hometown girl in, at this pay-per-view, I think would go one way into helping that momentum. So let's say that Bayley is going to retain the SmackDown Women's Championship, because not every belt can change hands, and I don't think every belt will change hands. A lot of belts change hands at SummerSlam as well, so I would be surprised here if we had every belt change hands on this pay-per-view. So I will go for Bayley here to retain. Well, we spoke briefly, mentioning the words Sasha Banks and the Raw Women's Championship, of course, which held by Becky Lynch. So let's talk about that match. A match that perhaps on the card, on paper, I am most excited to see, because Becky Lynch, well, regardless of how I felt she's been booked, it feels like that she's got a lot of momentum still with a lot of the public. There are a lot of Sasha Banks fans out there, a lot of people happy she's turned heel. For me, this is perhaps one of the few matches that's not really had a proper feud on the main roster with a lot of the women, especially with credibility with women as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this brings out, because Sasha Banks has done well, I think, on her return. I've liked the subtle changes of showing a heel. No purple hair, we've got blue hair. It was a shame to see her lose the tag team match on Raw. I'm happy to see her continue the momentum of winning. Becky Lynch, though, of course, was on the winning side on Raw. And I do say that I like to switch up for the pay-per-view. And I do think as well, Bayley retaining the Women's Championship from the SmackDown side. I think that Sasha Banks should win the Raw Women's Championship. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a false finish here, a DQ or something to keep this going to the following pay-per-view. But I do think eventually Sasha Banks is going to become the Raw Women's Championship at the end of this feud. The only thing that makes me feel that this can be delayed via DQ is that Becky Lynch is one of the cover stars for WWE 2K20. And for those who feel that that's not important, in previous years when champions have had the championship and have been on the cover, they have not lost the belt before the game was released. So the game, they would have to go one more pay-per-view, I think, for the game then to be released. So I think that would then probably be the perfect time to change the belt. So I'm feeling this one has got the chance to be a false finish here. But I do think eventually Sasha Banks will become the Raw Women's Champion. But if we're going to say you've got to pick a clean victor one way or another, there won't be a false finish. Sasha Banks, your new Raw Women's Champion. It's going to happen. It's just a matter if it's going to be at this pay-per-view or if we're saving it for Hell in a Cell. Next, we're going to talk about the WWE Championship. Kofi Kingston against Randy Orton. Has this rivalry got stupid yet? It's not quite yet, but it's getting close. I do feel that this needs to end on this pay-per-view. The thing that's a bit interesting with this one is that I don't know if it will end here. I feel that this is destined for the Hell in a Cell match at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. I wouldn't be surprised if Randy Orton was to win the championship, but the story for me screams that Kofi at the end of this needs to get over the stupid thing that was done 10 years ago. If Orton wins the rivalry, for me it makes no sense, and it kind of puts Kofi back down straight to the mid-card, back to where he was 10 years ago, lost in the shuffle. So I feel that the story is not trying to make Kofi seem lost. So I feel Kofi Kingston will pick up the victory. And even though he got the upper hand on SmackDown, he has been suffering a lot to the Viper. I do wonder if something might happen on the kickoff here just to give Randy the edge going back into the match. But I am going to say Kofi Kingston's going to retain here. I just feel that if the story is to end here, then Kofi will be the one that will do it. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kofi starts throwing the stupid word at Randy Orton before hitting a Trouble in Paradise or something just to really close this off. So we'll see what happens. I'm interested to see how this one will go. It's definitely one of the more... has been one of the better rivalries. All I would say now, it's getting near where I would become a bit tiresome to it if it went to another pay-per-view. That's I think, probably a best way to put it. But for me, on a predictions level, let's go Kofi. Next, let's look then at the Raw Tag Team Championships. And there's a reason this has been left near the end, because, of course, the champions will be facing each other in the main event, which follows this. So, Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman are going to be defending against Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. I'm glad to see Robert Roode is back involved. in a meaningful role in WWE and back on pay-per-view. I think that as a heel, he's got a lot going for him, and I think already small glimpses. I've enjoyed his work over the recent weeks. Him and Dolph Ziggler, they can actually be a decent tag team. I just don't like how they were thrown together and put together immediately in a tag team championship match. I guess they don't want to bury another tag team because I don't see him winning the championships here. They just want to put two guys here in a tag match to be fed to Seth and Braun. The interesting story here for me is going to be what happens with Seth and Braun. Is one of them going to turn on the other to try and get advantage later in the night? I don't think they're going to do that purely because I think they do want to go the route of that the Universal Championship is going to be defended with two tag team champions against each other, which I don't believe has happened before. Yes, challengers have won the belts and gone towards a pay-per-view, but I believe they have lost them when they've got to a pay-per-view. But someone please tell me if I'm wrong. I do know with John Cena and Shawn Michaels in 2007 that they had lost the belts by the time they got to WrestleMania. So I'm not sure with John Cena and Batista, but I do believe that they'd lost the belts as well, but I could be wrong. Like I say, someone correct me in the comments. But looking then at just to finish off the tag team championship thing, I don't think the double cross they've said about the idea on Raw, the contract signing. I don't think that's going to happen. My only closing thing off with Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode is why they're not called Rudolph. I don't know. I really wanted to see that, but I believe the Vultures was the name that was given by Michael Cole on Raw. Terrible tag team name. Not a fan of that at all. I don't see how it links to those two guys in the slightest. But for a final prediction, Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman will retain, so they can face off in the main event. I wonder if there will be some sort of injury angle or something just to give a little bit of flavour going into the main event. There has to be something to make you want to watch the whole show. But when we get to the main event, I do look at it and say that Seth Rollins, for me, will retain. I think the interest here for me, it's sad because Braun Strowman, for me, suspending disbelief, I don't see how Braun Strowman can lose to Seth Rollins, but I think that he's going to. Seth Rollins is the guy right now on Raw. Regardless of the size and stature. He found a way to eliminate Braun Strowman from the Royal Rumble. I think he's going to find a way to beat him on this pay-per-view. And the interesting thing then will be, will Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, turn up at the end of the show to close things off? I would love to see that. That would be a great cliffhanger to get you to tune into Raw the next night. Don't know if it will happen, but I certainly would like to see that. But Seth Rollins for me to beat Braun Strowman. But I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of the storyline, really, if I'm being brutally honest. I don't know if I mentioned it a couple of seconds ago, but just in case I didn't, I'm not a fan of the top stars beating tag teams, becoming tag team champions. It buries that tag team division. I'm not a fan of it. A tag team should be better than two single stars. I don't care if they're the top stars of the company. They still, when they come together, shouldn't beat your tag team champions. I wasn't a fan of that. And I'm still not a fan of it because these guys should really hate each other and they should just want to be concentrating on who is the best individual singles champion in the company. But it is what it is. I suppose WWE classify it as something different. It's not the first time that Seth Rollins has been a double champion coming into the Clash of Champions. He did it back in 2015 as the United States champion and, of course, at the time, the WWE champion. So Seth Rollins is doing this for the second time in his career, and I do think he's going to walk out with two championships as well. But that's all from me. Anyway, that is your Clash of Champions 2019 previews for you right there. Let me know your preview. Let me know your predictions, should I say, as well in the comments. I'd like to know any details you think about this upcoming event. You can ask me a question as well for Ask SCW if you want one of those featured this weekend. I will give you a shout out as well. So that'd be great if you have a YouTube channel. Maybe I can plug that for you. If you're on Twitter as well, maybe you can follow me at SCW Wrestling Channel at SCW_Steve. You can ask the question on there with the hashtag AskSCW. Exclusively added to the end of this video. Of course, I did mention at the start that if I would have time, I'd talk about the King of the Ring. I'm very disappointed it's not been added to the WWE Clash of Champions event. Of course, especially if it was rumoured the finals would take place there, because it's great to see it take place on a pay-per-view. It has more meaning. For me, that is going to conclude on an episode of Raw. Just has that feeling that this is not that important, and it perhaps might not be that important going forward. We've got Baron Corbin against Chad Gable in the finals. I just have this feeling if Chad Gable is going to win this, that perhaps it's not going to mean anything, and we're going to forget about the King of the Ring in 2 weeks' time, that the guy won't be on television. And that's a shame to say, because Chad Gable is a mega talented individual. He's put some great matches in the ring, and he has really built some momentum in this King of the Ring tournament. I really enjoyed what they did with him and Shane McMahon actually on this SmackDown Live, despite the fact that it goes against the rules of the King of the Ring tournament. The way they did that and Shane McMahon put Chad Gable over was actually entertaining, and I think it did actually go down really well with the MSG crowd. On the other hand, Baron Corbin, for me, I think would suit the King of the Ring gimmick very well, and I think he will become King of the Ring. I think the gimmick is just what he needs just to finish him off, because he's got a lot of good heel work going on, just that is lacking something in the character. The temporary Raw GM, I can't remember the exact word they had for him last year, that wasn't kind of working. The shirt didn't work for me either. He's got the look he's got in the ring now, currently when he's wrestling, is a better look, and I think as well, the King of the Ring gimmick, I think that he has got potential to be entertaining with that heel heat. I think it would go down quite well. So my prediction will be that Baron Corbin will become King of the Ring. I just hope it's going to mean something to whichever of these two guys wins it in about 6 months' time, because I'm even worried it might not mean anything in 6 weeks' time. But that's my thoughts quickly there on the, of course, King of the Ring. But I think it's been an all right tournament. I wasn't a fan of the triple threat being made for the semi-final either. If two guys eliminated each other, they both should have been out. Baron Corbin should have got that bye. But, of course, this is modern WWE. They want to add some twists. They want to add some turns, even if it's not something that perhaps makes full sense to what they've done previous of 30 years of booking. But anyway, I'm not going to bore you too much with that. I've given you my thoughts there of the King of the Ring, who will win it, and a bit of a shame that it's not on the pay-per-view. But let me know who you think will win the King of the Ring. Like I say, like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you've liked this little extra edition at the end of the video here for WWE Clash of Champions. Like I say, enjoy the pay-per-view. I'll see you next time here on SCW.